Hello, this is Ron Russell. I'm a regional administrator with Green Hills AA. I'm going to share with you some of the changes that have been put in place for the Iowa Special Education procedures that are reflected in the manual. This is as of July 2015. You may recall that procedures are typically modified, added to, clarified twice a year, typically in January and July, and I'm going to review some of the current changes. This will be a two-part video overview, and we're starting with part one. If you're looking at the screen right now, you're seeing Iowa IDEA. Just a reminder that www.iowa-idea-info.org is a place where you can go, kind of one-stop shopping for IEP information, and the procedures are housed here. You can see where they are under statewide procedures. And so I'm going to recommend that you go there, and you can see the new manual is a very large manual. It's over 500 pages. Can be found here where it says Special Education State Procedures. Go ahead and download that as a large PDF file to your computer. Would encourage you to delete old versions that you have to avoid confusion. Notice also there's a document called Release Notes. That's a great place to go to look at what has changed and what's different. It's much shorter, so be sure to download the whole manual for your future use, but you'll also want to review the release notes, and that's what I'm going to be using over these next few minutes to kind of review the changes this year. You'll also notice on the site there are some other useful forms available. The parental rights summary is there as a separate document, and you'll also notice that some of our translations are available. So if I click on this procedural safeguards, you can see that that's available in several different languages. Translated forms are also available on transact.com for Iowa, but some of the key forms you may need to help communicate with ELL families are right here on this site as well. Now I've switched to the view of the actual manual here that you're going to download. I always like to take a minute to remind people that while this is kind of an overwhelming manual, it's over 500 pages, it is very searchable. So as you look at the cover page here, you'll see you can go right to the table of contents, and you can go to specific sections. If you go to table of contents detail, things are broken down more, and you can go to a certain section. Let's if we wanted to look at child find, for example, we could click right here. Things are very well linked, so that's very helpful. Now I jump back to the table of contents. I wanted to remind you that Appendix A is a large section called the Documentation Guide, and this is a very helpful section because it actually shows a page-by-page picture of each form in the IEP with guidance. So for example, if I click on a page here, page B, ages 13 through 21, it takes me there, gives me a visual of that page, and again, very well linked. So for example, if I want to get guidance on this section, strengths, interests, and preferences, notice the blue hot links. I click on there and it takes me right to some guidance and examples. Then in that same section, notice also these red links. It can take me right back to the table of contents, and I can look for something else. Now I've jumped back to the table of contents. I wanted to show you one more helpful hint to search for things. If you were looking for a certain keyword or topic, you can also do a search for that. At the top of the menu, we go to Edit, and we go down to Find. When we do that, we see a small box appear up here, and you can type in any keyword that you would like. You can see I had in there ESY, or Extended School Year. That's the acronym for Extended School Year Services. So for example, if I was searching for the guidance on how to determine eligibility, I might type that in, and I click Next. And notice how it took me, it did a search, and here I am in the ESYS section. I could type something else. I could type transition. And I click Next. And it's taking me to each occurrence of that word. Now there'll be a lot of that word in the guidance, but you can see I can keep going to find different references to that word. Now I'm going back to this document that I mentioned earlier called Release Notes, and again this is sort of a summary of things that have been changed or additions to the manual. So let's take a few minutes to walk through some of these changes. Notice how these blue hot links exist as well. First one says electronic signatures. This is something new in the Web IEP program that will be available in August. Signature documents, so those documents that require parent consent signature, consents for evaluation, initiating IEP services, releasing information to other agencies, back and forth, and Medicaid forms where signatures are collected. There will be an electronic signature option, and I click there and you can see what that will look like. Now, just as always, these can be printed and traditional signatures can be gained in that way, but notice there'll be a button and a pop-up would occur. So you can see a box here, and someone would actually, as maybe some of you have done with little credit card machines and things like that out in the world, there'll be an option to use a mouse or a mouse pad to sign a name like that. A parent could do that and it could be submitted. So in that case, the form would be archived in WebIEP along with the actual signature, and that would be one less item to print. This is not required. Signatures can still be gotten traditionally from parents, but is an option. Next, in our release notes, you can see it says course of study example. One example has been added. There were, for the course of study portion of a transition-aged student IEP, there have been examples in the past, but if I click here, you can see there's been an addition. And what this is showing us is how you might write course of study for a student who may not be graduating solely by achievement of credits, but maybe graduating via their IEP. So this is an example for students, perhaps students that have significant cognitive disabilities that may be graduating based on IEP achievement. Here's an example of how that might be written. So less emphasis on achieving credits, but in a clear way showing what that student would need to pursue in their course of study in order to graduate. So this will be in the manual. This example 7 was just added, and the other examples are still there as well. And in this example for Keisha, notice how, as we typically do, the graduation criteria for the high school are listed, 48 credits in CPR in our sample here. But notice that it clearly says that Keisha has been exempted from these requirements and that she would graduate based on courses and activities specified in the IEP. So as you read further down here, it talks about Keisha's progress on her IEP goals. It also talks about other things that would be unique to Keisha's needs. Down here you can see there's this fictional EBCE program that looks like that would be some kind of a vocational program that would be part of graduation criteria as well for this particular student. Notice how it says that she would attend a minimum of 4 years in school. It's not at this time projecting going beyond that, although that would be a possibility, but as this sample is written, you can see that the emphasis would be adequate progress on the goals that are established and these other activities. There is still a targeted graduation rate, but notice it talks about a minimum of 4 school years and does not say up front that a student may go beyond that, although the student may, depending on the discretion of the IEP team and their progress. Next on changes, you can see where it says weighted matrices. The K-12 weighted matrix that we use to determine additional weighting for students with special education needs, in other words, looking at level 1, level 2, or level 3 weighting that results in funding, that has changed. So I've gone here to what the new one looks like, and let's take a walk through that. The areas of concern have kind of been fleshed out a little bit more, and the goal of this is for statewide consistency. There was a state committee that continues to look at this and looked at it over the past couple years and ended up recommending these changes with a big part of the goal is consistency across the state. So let's look at the first section we would look at now in the new matrix, planning and preparation. It is focusing specifically on number of goal areas. So you can see that 1 or 2 goal areas, 3 or more, and similar to our previous matrix, students that require essential elements that are participating in Iowa alternate assessment would be up here in the 3-point range. Now the guidance up above pointed you down to this section of guidance on goal areas. Just a reminder that that looking at number of goals is a goal area, a broad area of functioning. So for example, a student may have 2 math goals, one for calculation and one for problem solving, but math would be one goal area, and the same for other things. Students may have several behavior goals, but behavior would be the goal area. Now let's jump back up here. The second section is Specially Designed Instruction, SDI. The new matrix has been kind of careful to really point out this is instruction delivered by a licensed teacher, and the breakdowns are what we're kind of familiar with. 0 points for no specially designed instruction, which would be very unusual. 2 points for 49% or less of the day. And again, this can be in various settings. It could include in a gen ed setting, which might be co-teaching, or it might include SDI in a special education setting. Then we jump to 4 for 50% to 74% of the school day, and then 75% or above jumps us to 6 points. You'll notice here that instead of going 1, 2, 3, these were weighted 2, 4, and 6 points. That was of course intentional, and part of the rationale is just the importance, the critical nature of SDI to a student's program, so that was weighted a little bit higher. Next two sections have to do with paraprofessionals. You can see 3 is health, physical, behavior support. Those would be paraprofessionals that would be Medicaid funding of eligible, and that's the code we use for that is PP in the services page. Then here on number 4 we have instructional support. That is coded TA, and that would be more instructional or academic support. These would be the kinds of paraprofessional services that are not Medicaid fundable. And you can see the breakdown is the percentage of the day, regardless of setting, whether it be gen ed or special education setting, where that paraprofessional is directly working with the student, and that points go up accordingly. It would be possible in some cases where points could be split. There even could be, for example, a full-time paraprofessional. Some of their support for the student might be health, physical, or behavioral, and some may be instructional. In those cases, points could be split accordingly. I would say that in the state, there's definitely an emphasis that in order to count on the matrix for weighting purposes, we are moving towards making sure that paraprofessionals are coded appropriately with these PP and these TA codes. So it's really important to move away for what sometimes we see in IEPs are kind of vague references to a paraprofessional is needed. It's really important to pin down exactly why a paraprofessional is needed for a student and the reason using these codes. So that's going to be something that will have to be looked at over this next year to get a little bit better at making sure we have these coded very specifically. Support for school personnel, Section 5 has changed from a 0, 1, 2, 3 to either kind of a yes or no, 0 points or 1 points, and points are added for collaborative efforts. So if, for example, for 1 point here, if the IEP communicates clear ongoing commitment to support school personnel, that might be, for example, a 30-minute a week collaboration between gen ed, special ed, and paraprofessionals. That would earn a point. You can see here the description, things that are non-committal, like as needed or available to consult, would not earn points here. If we jump down to specialized transportation, other than kind of being fleshed out into its own category, this is not terribly different from what we've had before, anywhere from 0 to 3 points. We move up the continuum within district special route, attendant services, and then up here we have different variations of attendant and or specialized vehicles that could result in 3 points. The last section here, assistive technology, has been fleshed out as well, and you can see here that this does have to do with reasonably anticipated costs of assistive technology equipment. So smaller items less than $500 are down here at 0, all the way up to what would typically be higher tech items that are greater than $5,500. And finally at the bottom we see how points would be totaled to get level 1, 2, or 3. And again, IEP teams will submit a level when their web IEPs are submitted. Final decisions on weighting are done at the AA level in consultation with the district. And and there's communication when changes are recommended. Those things are happening. Lastly here, there's additional guidance. If we look at the bottom here, and guidance is given for unique circumstances such as 4+ programs, interpreter services, and those can sometimes be based on cost.